let's now look into the MCQs in the MTP March 21, right? So the mock test paper for the March 21, let's look into the MCQs over there. Okay, right? So one, they have the direct questions over there and then the case study based. Okay, a bank has some non-interest bearing staff advances. In the balance sheet, these should be presented as: a bank has some non-interest bearing staff advances. Non-interest bearing staff advances. In the balance sheet, these should be presented as term loans under advances, cash credit, overdraft and loans repayable on demand under advances, advances in India, others under advances schedule, and others under the other assets. Right, so these are certainly not the term loans, not the cash credit, overdraft and the loans repayable on demand. Advances in India, outside India, no, these are the non-interest bearing staff advances. Right, so this would be coming under the others, under the other assets. Okay, next one. CA Dharma has established another branch in the same city. Branch was inaugurated on 3rd of October 2020 and on 4th of October 2020, friends of CA Dharma gave an article on the front page of the local newspaper congratulating CA Dharma on the opening of another branch, which also includes a half-page photograph of CA Dharma with his consent. In your opinion, was the news in the newspaper a misconduct on the part of Dharma, and what actions can be taken against him? Right, so solicitation, that reminds us of clause 6 of the part 1. Yes, clause 6, clause 7, the solicitation is advertisement in the newspaper congratulating the member on the opening of the another branch. Right, so it says clause 8 part 1 second schedule. Second schedule, it is the major offences over there, and clause 8 fails to obtain sufficient information which is necessary for expression of opinion, or its exceptions are sufficiently material to negate the expression of an opinion. So no 812 over here. Right, then it is a misconduct under clause 5 part 1 of the first schedule. Now clause 5 is regarding canvassing, secures either through the services of a person who is not his partner or who is not his employee, or through means which are not open to a CA any professional business. Right, so it's not clause 5 also. And then yes, it is a misconduct under clause 7 of part 1 of the first schedule, and he can be reprimanded. His name can be removed from the register of member for 3 months and a fine of up to rupees 1 lakh. Right, so this seems to be the appropriate one. Yes, it is a misconduct under clause 8 of part 1 of the second schedule. Right, so again clause 8 part 1 second schedule fails to obtain sufficient information and he can be reprimanded. His name can be removed from the register of members permanently and fine of up to rupees 5 lakh. But anyways, it is not fails to obtain sufficient information. Right, so it's remove the name of the member from the register of members permanently or for any period, or impose a fine of up to rupees 5 lakh. Right, so it is a misconduct under clause 7 of part 1 of the first schedule and he can be reprimanded. His name can be removed from the register of members for 3 months and a fine of up to rupees 1 lakh. Right, clause 7 part 1 of the first schedule. What is it? Advertises his professional attainments or services, or uses designation or expression other than that of CA on a professional document such as letterheads, signboards, visiting cards, unless it be a degree of university established by law in India, recognized by central government, title indicating membership of ICAI, or an institution whose membership has been recognized by the central government or the council, and provided that a member in practice may advertise through a write-up subject to the guidelines issued by the council. Right, so here he is advertising his professional attainments. And clause 6, clause 7, solicitation, advertisement. Okay, right, now coming to question number 3. CA Ram identified that there was a misstatement last year and the same is still not corrected. Although unmodified audit report was issued last year by CA Ram. Right, so last year there was a misstatement, means SA 710, comparative information, corresponding figures and comparative financial statements. Ram identified that there was a misstatement last year and the same is still not corrected. Although unmodified audit report was issued last year by CA Ram. Guide CA Ram on the audit opinion considering the fact that the last year's misstatement has been identified in the current year and unmodified opinion was issued in the last year. Right, so now what is the situation? There was a misstatement in the last year and a previous year figures, corresponding figures, there is a misstatement. Then two possibilities: was it reported last year, was it not reported last year? Right, so reported last year, not reported last year. Right, reported last year, then this year we need to check whether the matter has been resolved or the matter is not yet resolved. If the matter is resolved, no reporting required in the current year. If the matter is not resolved, then modify the current report. And this is the one where the case study comes in the exam from 710. That last year auditor gave a qualification in the report for provisioning. And then how do you deal with the misstatement in the prior period report? If this year the provisioning is done, this year the provisioning is not done. And so this is the case study. Now the MCQ is asked on this one. Okay, last year there was a misstatement. Was it reported last year? No. An unmodified opinion was issued in the last year. Right. So now what you need to do is guide the auditor, CA Ram, on the audit opinion considering the fact that the last year's misstatement has been identified in the current year. An unmodified opinion was issued in the last year. So last year there was a misstatement. Was it reported? No. Right. Why? Comparative information is given, corresponding figures are given for comparison. But now in the corresponding figure, in the previous year figure, there is a misstatement. So can you compare it with the comparative? No. Right, because in the comparative there is a misstatement. So then in that case 710 says that modify current opinion with respect to the corresponding figure. Okay, don't compare with this comparative. In this comparative there is a misstatement. Right, so in accordance with 710, CA Ram should give an unmodified opinion but include other matter paragraph in the audit report as last year profit is being reflected in the reserves and surplus. Okay, in accordance with 710, CA Ram should seek legal opinion. Okay, in accordance with 710, CA Ram should qualify current audit report with respect to corresponding figures only. And in accordance with 710, CA Ram should give an unmodified opinion, but last year period's modified opinion should be highlighted in the emphasis of matter paragraph. But last period modified opinion to hai hi nahi na. Last period it was unmodified opinion. So there is no this is again not right. Emphasis of matter. First one says other matter paragraph. Second one over there says should seek the legal opinion. Right, so simple. In accordance with 710, CA Ram should qualify the current period audit report with respect to the corresponding figures only. Okay. Next one, question number 4. For the year ended 31st March 2021, Sabka Vikas and Sons has made a claim for refund of customs duty for rupees 2 crore, but such refund was admitted as due by the authorities in April 2021. Right, so 31st of March, Sabka Vikas and Sons made a claim for refund of customs duty for 2 crore, but such refund was admitted as due by the authority in April 2021. Sabka Vikas and Sons neither credited the claim in the profit and loss account nor reported the same in clause 16 of Form 3CD. Can you please guide the auditor of Sabka Vikas and Sons for reporting of refund of customs duty in accordance with clause 16 of Form 3CD? And so clause 16 of Form 3CD, 16A says ke whether any items falling within the charging section of 28. Right, B is regarding any refunds, drawbacks and credits which have been admitted as due by the authorities. Any refunds, drawback or credits which have been admitted as due by the authorities. But admitted as due by authority while for this year, 31st March 2021, and those not credited to P&L are required to be reported under 16B. Which is your income, you are not showing it as an income. Now required to be reported under clause 16B of Form 3CD. Okay, 16C is regarding the escalation claim. 16D is regarding any other item of receipt. And E is regarding the capital receipts. 16E, it is regarding the capital receipts. Right, so refunds, drawbacks and credit admitted as due by the authorities in the current year. And that's the previous year over there. Whether those, if they are not credited to P&L, then to be reported under 16B. But here it is admitted as due by authority in April 21. So not 2021, it is 21-22. Okay, refund of customs duty to the extent of 2 crores should be reported in clause 16 as the same is admitted by the customs authority. We agree it is admitted, but it is not admitted in the previous year. No, it is in the subsequent year. Okay, refund of customs duty to the extent of 2 crore need not be reported in clause 16 as it is admitted by the customs authorities in the next financial year. Okay. No disclosure is required as refund of custom duties is not covered under clause 16. Okay. Right, auditor should take a written representation from the management stating that refund of customs duty of 2 crore will be credited to P&L for 2022 and hence no reporting is required. Right, so written representation, no, we not to talk over here in the context of clause 16. And so no C, no D, right? So is it to be reported under clause 16 or not to be reported under clause 16? So not to be reported under clause 16. Why? As the same is arrears as it is admitted by customs authorities in the next financial year, right? In the next financial year. Okay, B Limited controls entity C Limited 75% and entity A Limited an investment company. Entity B Limited reduced the control of entity C Limited from 75% to 60%. And so earlier it was your 75% subsidiary, now it has become the 60% subsidiary. Right, so earlier minority stake would have been 25%, now minority stake you'll have to increase it by 15%, right? So now minority non-controlling interest will be 40%. Okay, with regard to that, certain adjustments were made to account for the change in the shareholding of the entity C Limited, which is consolidated. Right, these adjustments are known as, right? So B Limited controls entity C Limited and B Limited reduces the control of entity C Limited from 75 to 60. Right, so there is a change in the equity attributable to the NCI. And it changes in the equity attributable, right, to the non-controlling interest, to the minority interest, right? So whether yes, these adjustments are known as memorandum adjustment, current period consolidation adjustments, permanent consolidation adjustment, temporary period consolidation adjustments. Now, if you've not left the chapter an option, at least you should be knowing that there are only two types of adjustments which are talked of in the chapter of audit of CFS, the current period consolidation adjustments and the permanent consolidation adjustments. There is nothing over there called as the memorandum adjustments or the temporary period consolidation adjustments. What we have is the current period consolidation adjustments and the permanent consolidation adjustment. Now, permanent consolidation adjustments are only two. Yes, the determination of goodwill or capital reserve arising on the consolidation, and second one, the equity attributable to the NCI, to the minority interest, the non-controlling interest. Right, so here it is certain adjustments were made to account for the change in the shareholding of the entity C Limited, which is consolidated. So equity attributable to the NCI, right? So that's a permanent consolidation adjustment, right? So that's a permanent consolidation adjustment, not a current period. Right, permanent are only two: goodwill, capital reserve and equity attributable to NCI. Okay, next one, question number 6. CA Kamal is the statutory auditor of Auto Cover Limited for 2021. The company is engaged in the business of manufacturing of car accessories. CA Kamal noticed that the inventories of the company amounted to rupees 46 crore, equal to 25% of the total assets of the company at the end of the year, do not exist. Sales amounting to 33 crore, equal to 10% of the total sales during the year, have not actually occurred. And also 46 crore inventory does not exist. Sales amounting to 33 crore not actually occurred. And CA Kamal noticed both the material discrepancies just before the finalization of the audit report for 21. CA Kamal considers that the above misstatement would distort the true and fair view to a greater extent. And distort the true and fair view to a greater extent. What is the correct course of action that CA Kamal should consider in such a situation? Right? Pay attention, everyone. CA Kamal should consider withdrawing from the engagement or issue a disclaimer of opinion. Right? So either withdraw or disclaimer, but disclaimer when we don't get the evidence. Here we've got the evidence. CA Kamal should consider issuing an adverse opinion and mentioning both the material discrepancies in the basis for adverse opinion paragraph of the audit report. Okay, CA Kamal should ask the management to explain both the discrepancies in the notes to account, and he should highlight the matter in the key audit matter paragraph of the report. Anyways, if reference is given in notes, then it comes in emphasis of matter, not key audit matter. And just mention both the discrepancies in notes, and auditor will highlight in the report in key audit matter. No, 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 no. CA Kamal should give a qualified opinion along with a specific mention of the matters in the emphasis of matter paragraph in the audit report, along with appropriate disclosures in the notes to account to be made by the management of the Auto Cover Limited. So qualified, emphasis of matter and disclosure in the notes. No, no, too much of complication over there. Withdraw or issue disclaimer? No. Here the situation is that there is a material misstatement which is material and pervasive, because what does it say? To a greater extent it will distort the true and fair view. Right, so it is material and pervasive, right? So it would lead to an adverse opinion, and mentioning both the material discrepancies in the basis for adverse opinion paragraph of the audit report. Okay, next one. Yes, preparing the financial statements in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework is the responsibility of the management. Which of the following is correct in regard to the disclosure of such management responsibility? We study in the preconditions for an audit, responsibility of management, preparation and presentation of financial statements in accordance with AFRF, right? Also management's responsibility in the audit report. We say that it's management's responsibility for preparation of financial statements in accordance with the AFRF. Okay, this is implied responsibility of management, and it is presumed in an audit of financial statements, and therefore need not be specifically mentioned anywhere. We can't anyways consider this point. The management may undertake to accept such responsibility through an engagement letter itself. So it says management undertake to accept such responsibility through an engagement letter itself. No, engagement letter is issued by the auditor to the client, to the management. Okay, auditor's report should describe the management's responsibility in a section with the heading responsibility of management for financial statements. And auditor's report should refer to the responsibility of the auditor and not that of the management, as the same is obvious. So obviously we delete that option. Okay, right. So again it says accept such responsibility through an engagement letter itself. No. The auditor's report should describe the management's responsibility in a section with the heading responsibility of management for the financial statements. Okay. Right, question number 8. The firm from which you are pursuing your articleship training is the internal auditor of ABC Limited. While conducting the audit of the medical expense reimbursements of the company employees, you come across certain bills which are clearly not medical in nature and some others which have been overwritten. During the discussion, the accountant points out that the employee is a functional head who enjoys a significantly higher medical expense reimbursement limit, and yet you should ignore these bills as the amount is not material. And so you're doing internal audit, and what you come to know, medical expense reimbursement, the bills are clearly not medical in nature and some of them have been overwritten. Right? So what explanation management gives you? That he is a functional head who enjoys a significantly higher medical expense reimbursement limit, and that you should ignore these bills as the amount is not material. You will accept the explanation and the bills. Recommend that the claim should be reduced and clear guidelines should be issued to all employees on the matter with a provision for disciplinary action. Recommend that the employees be asked to submit the fresh bills to avail the tax benefit. Recommend that the employees be taxed on the aggregate amount of the suspect bills. So that is not the way in which it generally happens in business, that recommend that the employee be taxed on the aggregate amount of the suspect bills. No. Asked him to submit fresh bills to avail the tax benefit. Accept the explanation, right? So you can't go on the extreme step. You can't be completely just accepting whatever they are saying and not go to an extreme step that no, tell him to submit fresh bills or tax on the aggregate amount, right? So what does it say? Recommend that the claim should be reduced and clear guidelines should be issued to all employees on the matter with the provision for disciplinary action. Right, so findings as well as the suggestions for improvement. Internal auditor, no, you don't only give the findings but you also give the recommendations for the improvement. Okay, Sudarshan Row Private Limited is having 5 branches across India. Its branch-wise turnover during financial year 1920 is Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata. Right, the company would be subject to audit under 35(5) of the CGST Act. Select the correct option from the following. Right, so turnover is exceeding 2 crore. Right, so limit for is the audit by the professionals. Right, if the aggregate turnover exceeds the amount. Right, so any individual branch, even though if the individual branch does not exceed the limit, individual branch, even if it does not exceed the limit, once the GST is applicable to the company as a whole, to the GSTIN number, it would be applicable to all the branches also. Right, so it says only Mumbai and Delhi would be subject to the audit. Right, then it says none of the branch would be subject to audit. All the branches would be subject to audit except Chennai, and all the branches would be subject to audit. Right, so all the branches would be subject to audit. Once applicable to all the branches. You don't need to then check the turnover of the individual branches. Okay. Yes, question number 10. Sit straight, everyone. Okay. The acceptable detection risk. Detection risk. We always reduce detection risk. We lower detection risk, thereby to keep the audit risk to an acceptably low level. RMM we assess and detection risk we manage. We try to reduce it. Why reduce it? Thereby reducing our overall audit risk. The acceptable detection risk needs to be dash in order to reduce the audit risk to dash in the area of inventory management and handling. Why inventory management and handling? Any area. Right? The acceptable detection risk needs to be low in order to reduce audit risk to an acceptably high level. Now, first thing and all, we never want to reduce audit risk to an acceptably high level. We always want to reduce audit risk to an acceptably low level. Right, so low in order to reduce audit risk to an acceptably low level, or needs to be high in order to reduce audit risk to an acceptably low level? No. Detection risk needs to be low in order to reduce the audit risk to an acceptably low level. Okay, right, so that completes the direct ones over there. Right, now coming to the integrated case scenario. Right, so now something very, very interesting. Right, still listening to me? Trying to listen? Right, okay, right, integrated case scenario 1. CAD was a practicing chartered accountant in Kolkata from the last 15 years. He was appointed as the statutory auditor of Giant Motors Limited, a listed entity which was involved in the business of manufacturing of motor cars for 1920. CAD was appointed as the joint auditor along with CAT and CAP. They have divided the responsibility for conducting the audit in accordance with 299, mutual discussion. As the company has huge amount of property, plant and equipment, it was decided that all the 3 auditors will verify the records relevant to property, plant and equipment. And also division of audit areas and the common audit areas. Some work they may decide not to divide, and all of them should do the checking. Right. It was decided that all 3 auditors will verify the records relevant to property, plant and equipment while forming an opinion. D was having a different opinion on property, plant and equipment, and T and P were having the same opinion. Right. So differences of opinion among the joint auditors. Right. The joint auditor having a different opinion, separate opinion, may report separately, not bound by the views of the majority of the joint auditors. Okay, so D was having a different opinion and T and P were having the same opinion. Okay, right. D wants to qualify capitalization of the post-acquisition cost incurred on machinery, whereas T and P were of the opinion that the treatment done by Giant Motors is correct. Both of them contended that they are forming a majority. CAD will have to certify common audit report which is in accordance with the opinion of T and P. Okay, right, so one part of the story over. Now, while assessing the applicability of CARO, CAD found that issued share capital of Giant Motors is 500 crore along with 30 crore of calls which are being unpaid as they are receivable from the retail investors. In the month of July, Giant Motors forfeited shares of worth rupees 10 crore. There were no reserves in surplus as it was transferred to the parent entity. Right. Also, along with equity shares of 300 crore, there was preference share capital of 200 crore. Okay, so that's regarding the applicability of CARO. So, joint audit, then applicability of CARO. Then, CAT while reporting under clause 6 of CARO. Clause 6, cost records, where maintenance of cost records have been prescribed by the central government under section 148 subsection 1, whether such cost records have been made and maintained. Okay, right. So T, while reporting under clause 6 of CARO, did not report anything under clause 6 as the government has not ordered Joint Motors to conduct the cost audit for its books of account. Hence, T did not report anything under clause 6. Giant Motors has a total number of 11 directors. Okay, so did not report under clause 6. Then Giant Motors has a total number of 11 directors. Talent is the executive chairman of the company. Out of 11 directors, 5 were the independent directors, right? So now coming to the composition of the board of directors in the chapter of the audit committee and corporate governance. Audit committee, corporate governance, the composition of the board of directors. Right, Mrs. D was not aware that CAD was the statutory auditor of Giant Motors Limited. She purchased shares of Giant Motors Limited worth 1,50,000 book value on 3rd of October 2020. So relative is allowed to hold shares up to the face value of rupees 1 lakh. You are holding 1,50,000 on 3rd of October. But when she came to know about the statutory audit of Giant Motors, she sold her shares on 10th of November 2020. So relative is allowed to hold shares up to the face value of rupees 1 lakh, and if relative exceeds the limit, the corrective action can be taken within the grace period of 60 days. So your 3rd of October, 3rd of November, and then 10th of November. So within 60 days, the corrective action has been taken. See, she sold her shares. One of the shareholders of Giant Motors Limited contended that CAD is disqualified and shall vacate his office of the statutory auditor. Okay. On the basis of the above mentioned facts, you are required to answer the following MCQ. Can you please guide whether CAD really needs to go with the opinion formed by CAT and P or not? So should he go with the opinion of T and P? CAD will have to go with the opinion formed by majority auditor. We will not go with this point. Okay, CAD can add a separate audit opinion paragraph in the common audit report, and the same should be highlighted in the emphasis of matter paragraph. So complicated. Okay, in the common audit report, separate audit opinion paragraph and highlight it in the emphasis of matter paragraph. CAD can go with the opinion formed by the majority auditors, but CAD had a difference of opinion should be highlighted in emphasis of matter paragraph. They may report separately. In case of differences of opinion, the joint auditor having a different opinion may report separately, not bound by the views of the majority of the joint auditors. So CAD can altogether issue a separate audit report, and reference of the other audit report issued by the majority auditors should be made in the emphasis of matter paragraph or could be made in the other matter paragraph. Right, so again no B, and add a separate audit opinion in the common audit report and same should be highlighted in emphasis of matter. No, CAD can altogether issue a separate audit report, and reference of the other audit report issued by the majority auditor should be made in the emphasis of matter paragraph. What should have been CAD's opinion on the applicability of CARO for 1920, assuming that forfeited shares are not included in the equity share capital? Forfeited shares. Now, what is the applicability of CARO? Right, applicability of CARO, what does it say over here? Right, what does the question say? Appointed as the auditors of Giant Motors, a listed entity. And Giant Motors, a listed company, so applicable to every company including a foreign company. What does the applicability of CARO say? That it shall apply to every company including a foreign company. Right, except banking company, insurance company, section 8 company, small company, one person company, and private limited company subject to certain conditions. Right, what are the conditions for the private limited company? Private limited company, what are the conditions we have? That paid up share capital not exceeding 1 crore. Right, then after that the borrowings not exceeding 1 crore and the turnover not exceeding 10 crore. Okay. right? So Caro will be applicable, Caro will be applicable, Caro will be and will be applicable, right? So what does it say? Caro will be applicable as the paid up share capital of is rupees 480 crore, which is more than 1 crore. Then it says 480 crore, which is more than 10 crore. So obviously 10 crore is not the condition over there. The condition over there is for 1 crore. But anyways, that is for the private companies, not for the public companies as such, right? So now it says Caro will be applicable as paid up share capital and reserves and surplus are more than 480 crore and here 280 crore. Right, so now let us look into how much is the paid up share capital over there. 500 crore and a pay issued equity share capital along with 30 crore of the calls which are unpaid, right? So 500 minus 30, but forfeited shares of worth rupees 10 crore, so that needs to be added, right? So 500 minus 30, 470 plus 10, that is going to make it 480. And preference share, is that also to be counted? Yes, equity preference, both capital are to be counted, right? So 480 crore or 280 crore, it is going to be 480 crore. But anyways, little bit of a concern with the question itself over here. Why? Because Caro is always applicable to a public company. We check the applicability of Caro as such only for the condition of 1 crore, 1 crore, 10 crore. We only check that for a private company. Okay. Next one. Was the approach followed by CAT for not reporting under clause 6 of Caro correct? Now, clause 6 talks about cost records. It does not talk about the cost audit. You know, clause 6, what does it say? Irrespective of whether a cost audit is applicable, not applicable, when it is applicable, whether it is done or not done, whenever cost records are required to be maintained, reporting is required to be done under clause 6, whether such cost records have been made and maintained. Where maintenance of cost records have been prescribed by the central government under section 148(1), and this is Giant Motors, so motors, so certainly they will have to maintain the cost records, right? What does it say? Yes, as reporting under the was the approach followed by CAT for not reporting correct. So it says yes, their approach was correct, as reporting under the said clause is required only if Giant Motors were ordered by the government to conduct the cost audit. No. Clause 6 is regarding cost records. It is not regarding the cost audit. Okay, was the approach correct? Yes, reporting under this clause is applicable only to entities involved in the production of electricity. This the point they've taken it from the exemption from cost audit, no? Exemption from cost audit, operating in an SEZ, or more than 75% of the revenue is coming from exports through foreign exchange, or it is engaged in the generation of electricity for captive consumption through a captive generating plant. That is exemption from cost audit. Okay. Right, whether the approach is correct, was the approach followed correct? No. Clause 6 should be reported irrespective of whether Giant Motors Limited has been ordered to conduct the cost audit by the central government or not. Okay, and whether the approach was correct? No. Yes, no, should be reported only if there is any discrepancy found while examining the cost records. No. So we simply have to report whether cost records have been made and maintained irrespective of whether cost audit has been ordered by the central government or not. Okay, question number 14. Was there any non-compliance on the part of Giant Motors in case of appointment of the independent directors? Okay, right. So how many independent directors they had? Total directors in the company, right, had total 11 directors. Talent is the executive chairman. So the chairperson of the company is an executive person. So in that case, at least 1/2 independent directors, right? So 11, 1/2 is going to be, yes, what did it say? 5 point, right? So that has to be, what you say, rounded off to the next number, right? So 6 independent directors. And here out of 11 directors, 5 were independent directors, right? Total number of 11 directors. Chairperson is executive director. So at least 1/2 independent directors. So 6 independent directors. And here there are only 5 independent directors. Okay, right? So was there any non-compliance? It says no, there was no non-compliance as independent directors were more than 2. No. Next one. Yes, there was a non-compliance as there should have been more than 6 independent directors specified in regulation 17 and regulation 17A. Okay, no, there was no non-compliance as independent directors were 5, which is more than 2/3 of the total director in accordance with Regulation 17 and Regulation 17A, right? So no 2/3 over there. Yes, there was a non-compliance as all the directors should have been independent director except the chairperson of the company. All should be independent. No, 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 no. Yes, there was a non-compliance as there should have been more than 6 independent directors specified in Regulation 17 and Regulation 17A. Okay, 15. Was the contention of the shareholder that CAD should vacate the office as the statutory auditor correct? Towards the end of the case study. Right? One of the shareholders of Giant Motors contended that D is disqualified and shall vacate his office of the statutory auditor. Right? So was the contention of the shareholder correct? Right? No, as Mrs. D has sold her shares within the grace period of 60 days. No, as Mrs. D is holding shares of less than book value of 2 lakh. It is not 2 lakh, it is 1 lakh. Okay. Yes, as Mrs. D has purchased shares which are more than book value of 1 lakh. So she has purchased, but she has also sold them within the grace period of 60 days. Yes, as Mrs. D holds shares during the financial year and his husband is the statutory auditor of Giant Motors. No, but she has sold them within the grace period of 60 days. Hence, the contention of the shareholder is not correct. Okay. Right. So, coming to the next case scenario. Yes, all of you with me? Okay, Well & Associates, an audit firm, was selected for the purpose of quality review by the Quality Review Board as it was having many of the statutory audit assignments of clients engaged into sectors identified as prone to fraud. There were adverse findings by the technical reviewer in the quality review conducted in the past of Mr. Ramesh, an engagement partner of Well & Associates, because of which the QRB selected 5 audit engagements of the firm for quality review. Jai, a practicing CA for more than 25 years, was appointed as the technical reviewer, and a technical reviewer eligibility 15 years of experience. So here the more than 25 years was appointed as the technical reviewer to conduct the quality review of the said firm, and accordingly Mr. Jai, after conducting the quality review with a team of 3 assistants, and you can have up to 5 assistants with you for the quality review, submitted his preliminary report to Well & Associates with qualifications as under. The AFUR has not obtained a written confirmation of compliance with the policies and procedures on independence from all firm personnel for the past 2 financial years. So at least an annual declaration of independence should be taken from all the firm personnel, and here for past 2 years it has not been taken. Okay, the AFUR had established the policies and procedures for assembly of the final audit file in accordance with the time limit prescribed in 230, but there were delays observed in the same. And assembly of the final audit file not more than 60 days after the date of the audit report, and not more than 60 days. For 2 of the audit engagements of the AFUR, no engagement documentation were available for the same. And as per the statement of the partner of the AFUR, after retaining them for 4 years and 6 years respectively, they were sent to the principal auditor of the said unit audit engagement. Right, so retention period for the audit file not less than 7 years from the date of the audit report. Right, so here how many years they've retained it for? 4 years and 6 years. So more 3 years and more 1 year. They should have retained the audit documentation. Because not less than 7 years. Assembly not more than 60 days. Okay. There were 2 instances of delays observed in communicating the significant deficiencies to TCWG. Right, so SA 265, communicating deficiencies in internal control to those charged with governance and management. The AFUR has revised its performance materiality level in case of one of the statutory audit assignment with respect to auditing of the financial leasing transaction, and the AFUR had only documented such revision in the performance materiality level. Right, so AFUR had revised the performance materiality with respect to leasing and only documented such revision, but even the original one should have been documented and then any changes. Okay, name of the entity under audit of the AFUR. So 5 files were selected over there, selected 5 audit engagement. So which were the files picked up? REQ, TIMCO, GLES, FINDE and DM. What is the entity? Listed, unlisted, unlisted, listed and unlisted. Date of approval of financial statements, date of audit report, date of assembly of the final audit file. It should not be more than 60 days after the date of the audit report. And then you also have the date of written communication of the significant deficiencies in internal control by AFUR. Okay, on the basis of the above mentioned facts, you are required to answer the following MCQ. Okay, well, an associate should have obtained a written confirmation of compliance with the policies and procedures on independence from all its firm personnel as required as per the requirement of which statute, standard and in what frequency. Right, so what is the frequency? Annually. So at least annually, at least annually. What does it say? At least annually and at least half yearly. So half yearly you are out. As per the requirement of Code of Ethics, at least half yearly, well, an associate should have obtained a written confirmation from all of its firm personnel. Then it says as per the requirement of the Council Central Guidelines 2008, as per the requirements of SQC1, as per the requirements of 220. Right, so no council guidelines over here. SQC1, not SA220. SQC1, at least annually a declaration of independence should be obtained from all the firm personnel. Right, so as per the requirements of Standard on Quality Control 1, at least annually, well, an associate should have obtained a written confirmation from all of its firm personnel. Okay, in case of which entities under audit of well and associates there was a delay in the assembly of the final audit file. Okay, right, delay in the assembly of the final audit file. Right, so what should be the assembly of the final audit file? Not more than 60 days after the date of the audit report. Right, so 25th of June, date of audit report. Right, so then 25th of July, 25th of August. Here it is 3rd of September. That means there is a delay. Okay, next one, 18th of August. So 18th of September, 18th of October and then 5th of November. Right, so again there is a delay. Right, next one, 28th of July, 28th of August, 28th of September. So here there is no delay. Are you getting? And 60 days. I'm just calculating 2 months ahead. Right, 1st of June and 1st of July, 1st of August. Right, so again there is no delay. Right, and the last one over there is, what does it say? 1st of June, 1st of June and then 1st of July and then 1st of August. Right, so 1st of June 30 days and then July 31 days. Right, so 61 days. So not more than 60 days. So here again there is a delay. Right, and then 18th of May, 18th of June, 18th of July. Right, so here it is 25th of June. Right, so again there is no delay. Right, so 28th of July, 15th of September, 28th August and then 28th of September. So 15th only, so no delay. Here 18th May, 18th June, 18th July. So again no delay. So REQ, TIMCO and FINDE. REQ, TIMCO and FINDE, there is a delay. Right, so REQ, TIMCO and FINDE respectively. Yes, they are saying REQ, TIMCO, GLES, FINDE, REQ, TIMCO, REQ, TIMCO, GLES, FINDE, DM. So all of them and all of the above, D option. So which is the correct option over here? B is the correct option. Okay, next one. In case of which entities under audit of well and associate there was a delay in the written communication of the significant deficiencies in internal control. Right, so what does 265 say regarding the communication of the deficiencies in internal control to management TCWG? It says listed entities, you need to communicate the deficiencies in internal control before the approval of the financial statements. So that TCWG can discharge their oversight responsibilities. So listed entities, deficiencies in internal control to be communicated before, right, before the approval of the financial statements. Other entities, other than listed entities, it could be communicated at a later date. But later date should not exceed the assembly of the final audit file. The later date, should it exceed the date of the assembly of the final audit file? No, but because before 60 days, within 60 days I have to do the assembly. So if I have not yet communicated the deficiencies, how I will put it in my audit file? है ना. So listed entities, so before approval of financial statements. Other entities, it could be communicated at a later date, but later date should not exceed the the assembly of the final audit date. Okay, after date of audit report 60 days, it should not exceed that date. Okay, so if you look at this in 265, right, it is said over here, okay, listed entities, you need to communicate the deficiencies. Listed entities, you need TCWG may need to receive the auditor's communication before the date of approval of the financial statement in order to discharge their specific responsibilities in relation to internal control. Whereas for other entities, the auditor may issue the written communication at a later date. And a later date. Nevertheless, in the latter case, in the second one, other entities, in the case of the other entities, as the auditor's written communication of significant deficiencies forms part of the final audit file, the written communication is subject to the overriding requirement for the auditor to complete the assembly of the final audit file on a timely basis. Right, so SA 230 states that an appropriate time limit within which to complete the assembly of the final audit file is ordinarily not more than 60 days after the date of the auditor's report. Okay. Right. So first let us look into the part of the listed entities. Listed entities, what did we say? Before the approval of the financial statements. Right. So what is the date of approval of financial statements? 31st of May. And what date they have been communicated? 5th of June. So again there is a delay. And the 31st of May communicated on 5th of June. And second case, what is the date of approval of financial statements? 12th of May. And when they have been communicated? 5th of May. So before the approval of financial statements. So here there is no delay. And here there is no delay. So now listed entity matter over. Okay, REQ Limited, there is a delay, but Finde, in that case there is no delay. Now let us look into Timco, Gless and the DM. Okay, right. So now in case of this Timco Limited, what does it say? 18th of August, date of audit report. After that, within 60 days. What would be 60 days after that? I'd say 18th of September and 18th of October. Now here 18th of August is the date of audit report, and then within 60 days and 25th of August. Has it been communicated within 60 days, the assembly of the final audit file? Yes. So though the assembly has not been done by the time limit of 60 days, but at least has the communication been done within 60 days after the date of the audit report? Yes. So there is no delay. And 18th August, the communication is made on 25th of August. So has it been done within 60 days after the date of the audit report? Yes. So there is no delay. Next one, 28th of July. So 28th of July, then after that we have the 28th. Yes, and here what is the assembly of the final audit file done? 15th of September. When is the assembly of the final audit file completed over here? We said there is no delay. So the assembly has been done on 15th of September. So before you do the assembly, you have to communicate the deficiencies. But here when the deficiencies are communicated, 18th of September. So not before the assembly of the final audit file. So again here there is the delay. Right, and now coming to the last one over there. Yes, when the deficiencies have been communicated, 4th of July. Right, what is the date of the audit report? 18th of May. And 18th of May. Right, and when is the assembly of the final audit file done? 25th of June. And when it is communicated? 4th of July. So again, not before the date of the assembly of the final audit file. So again, there is a delay. Are you getting 60 days? And then you also need to check 60 days or the date of assembly of the final audit file, whichever is earlier. And the deficiency should be communicated in case of other entities. Listed entities, so it says before approval of the financial statements. Right. So in this case, where is the delay? REQ Limited, Gless Private Limited and the DM Limited. Okay. Right, so REQ Limited, Gless Private Limited and the DM Limited. Right, so REQ, Gless Private Limited and the DM Limited. Right, so D is the option. Right, D is the correct option. Question number 19. For at least how many more years? For how many more years? Well, an associate should have retained the engagement documentation in respect of the two audit engagements as referred above. Right, so how many years did they keep the file? 4 years and 6 years. How many more years they should have kept it? 3 years and 1 year. So that the total would have been 7 years. Right, so 3 and 1. Okay, so 3 year and 1 year respectively, 4 and 2, 1 year, and for other audit engagement documentation was retained for requisite period, 6 year and 4 year respectively, right? So 3 year and 1 year respectively. Okay, how many audit engagements of Well and Associates, the QRB, might have selected if there were no adverse finding by the technical reviewer in the quality review conducted in the past of Mr. Ramesh, partner of Well and Associates? Now, what is given in the question? There were adverse findings by the technical reviewer, right, in the quality review conducted in the past by us of Mr. Ramesh, an engagement partner, because of which QRB selected 5 engagements, because there were adverse findings. But now the question says, okay, had there been no adverse findings? And okay, had there been, because there were adverse findings, 5 files were selected. But had there been no adverse finding, then what does the quality review the content of the chapter over there says? Quality review board might have selected up to 3 audit engagement, 5 audit engagement, 5 or 3, right? So in case if there is no adverse finding, it says up to 3 audit engagement. So 5 out. Right, then QRB might have selected up to 3 audit engagement for review and not more than 2 audit engagement of Ramesh and not more than 1 audit engagement of Ramesh, right? So if there is no adverse finding, then 1 partner, 1 audit, not more, 1 partner, not more than 1 audit engagement, right? So not more than 1 audit engagement of Mr. Ramesh. And not more than 1. Yes, quality review board might have selected up to 3 audit engagements when there is no adverse finding, and for review, and for not more than 1 audit engagement of Mr. Ramesh. Right, so that completes our discussion for the MCQs in the MTP March 21. Right, MTP March 21. Okay, thank you.